Hi everyone, I'm Marius-Christian Burcea, and what a surprise, I've just met Oron Stern, the man of Symbolico project. We are at the Bucharest International Airport, kind of symbolic place for our show Journeys to the Infinite. Oron, you are coming from Transylvania Calling Festival in Romania, and you're on the way back to Israel. Because you're the second Israeli artist I had the pleasure of interviewing, I want to know from you, why do you think Psy music is so popular in your home country, and what's the reason for such a strong scene? A scene where you are a special original voice proposing a fresh style that is dancey yet deep and soulful.
First of all, thank you. Thank you so much for this interview and for the kind words. Israel, it's a very unique place. It's a very different place than many other places I've been visiting, not because I was born there, it's really I'm trying to stay objective. There is something different in the culture and the mentality of the people. Maybe it has to do with the history, I'm assuming, because the Israelites, the Jewish people, didn't have their own country for many, many years, and they managed to return to their original homeland. This is the idea behind the word Zion, by the way, because Israel is a Zionist country, which means that the native people return to their homeland. After being immigrating for so many years and passing through the Holocaust in the Second World War, and also when the State of Israel was established, all the neighbors surrounding Israel were not accepting this idea and entered into wars. So Israel suffered from a lot of violence and a lot of resistance towards the existing of this nation. So many people can say that Israel is a bit like a post-traumatic country that has so much pain and emotional pain inside that is unexpressed. And music, like electronic music, and especially fast electronic music, upbeat like psytrance music, it's a perfect platform for the Israeli culture to express their unexpressed feelings outside. And in that case, I will call this a healing process, because everyone knows that it's not very good to hold our emotions, especially our painful emotions, inside of us. We need to find a way to express them outside. Me personally, myself, I remember like 10, 12 years ago, I used to go to psytrance parties, and I used to dance for hours with tears in my eyes, because I just felt that this music allows me to just release everything that I had inside and outside, give it an expression in dance, in emotion, in tears. It helped me a lot. And I see it still doing the same job to many other people in Israel, especially youngsters. It has so much inside, a lot of anger, a lot of painful emotions, and the platform of the psytrance parties in Israel really allows that to be expressed fully. And I believe that this is why in Israel you have so many parties. Now, artists you also can find in Israel, many come artists that are successful not only in Israel but all around the world. And I believe that this is also comes from the same reason. Okay, so also as an artist, an Israeli artist, you have so much to express, so many emotions that you want to release, so it's also an amazing platform to release it. And because Israel is like it, very tough, strong and dancey, I believe that this is what makes Israeli artists very famous around the world, for their ability to really make other people move. I can give an example from my style of music, which considered in the psytrance world to be a chill-out music. But because I'm coming from Israel, so my approach to music is more dancey. It's more about releasing those emotions that are stuck inside of us, and we need like a certain amount of power in every beat, in every melody, in every sound that allows the dancer or the listener to resonate with that intensity and express that feeling that they have inside of them stuck and give an expression outside. So I believe that this is one of the main reasons why Israeli artists and audience are really passionate about psytrance music in general, but psychedelic music, especially when it's dancey in specific.
Let's go to your musical beginnings. How did it all start?
So today I'm 34 years old, and I think it was around the year 1997, in the late 90s. I got exposed to psytrance music for the first time from my neighbor. He was older than me, like 4 or 5 years. Was a good friend of my older brother. And I showed him what type of electronic music I used to listen in class. And he laughed at me. He told me, no. Let me show you something else. And he introduced me to psytrance. He introduced me to artists like Hallucinogen, X-Dream, Sun Project, even the famous Israelis Infected Mushroom, that back in the days they had only one album, their first album, which is very, very psychedelic. And some other artists as well. And I just got amazed. As a 12, 13 years old kid, I couldn't even believe what I'm listening. I was always a curious, full of imagination type of kid or person. And when I listened to this type of music for the first time, it blew my mind. When I listened to this music, I had goosebumps in all of my body, and my mind just flew to different dimensions. And I had a whole stories in different dimensions that I'm outside of my everyday life story into a completely different story. And from that point of view, I could observe my own life from those worlds in my imagination. And suddenly my own life looked as another story. So in other words, it connected me to, not to the main hero of my life, which is the role I'm playing as a human being, but it connected me to the one who writes the script, the one who writes the story. And that moment I knew that I'm going to write scripts the same way I'm writing the script of my life. I can write many other scripts, musically speaking. And I got interested. I was always a computer type of person since I was a kid. I already knew how to mess with computers and connect those and build them from parts. So I already began to look for the program. I got to know a program, a DOS program, very old one called the Impulse Tracker. Maybe you heard of it.
Yeah.
And I found out that I can find some projects of what was so-called before Infected Mushroom. One of Infected Mushroom, one of them called Erez Eisen, he had another project together with another 3 friends. They were called Shidapu. So they had in their website of Infected Mushroom a secret area that I discovered that you can enter, and there you have like some photos. You had photos from the studio and also like secret projects for Impulse Tracker. So I just download those secret projects, and I had a lot of sounds to play with, and I just began to play with. Like nobody taught me how to do it. I was curious and trying to imitate what I liked to hear. And this is how the journey began, actually. It was more like a hobby for many years. The main thing in my life was, in those times, martial arts, especially Brazilian martial art called capoeira, which combine musics and rhythms and culture as well. And only in 2007, when I actually flew to Brazil, the origin place of capoeira, and I was sure I'm going to enjoy being with the masters and practicing capoeira and becoming a master myself, I actually found myself in big parties of psytrance, experimenting with psychedelics for the first time, and basically having the time of my life. So I came back from Brazil knowing that my life has changed. I'm not going to be a capoeira master, but I'm going to take this hobby that I had for many years that helped me develop my imagination and take it to the next level. I'm gonna begin to write a project, but back then it was still psytrance. I wasn't even into music. I was into psytrance alone. Any type of other music that I used to listen was just not interesting for me. It took me a while. I came back to Israel in 2007 and I went to learn music production. And there I had some friends that were doing all sorts of kinds of genres. One of them was a rapper. He used to do hip-hop. And we would sit together, like smoke a spliff in his house. And he would tell me, "Hey, Oron, make me a beat. What do you say? Make me a beat." And I'm telling him, "What beat? Like hip-hop beat?" He says, "Yeah, well, make me a beat. I want to rap." And I don't know how to make beats very good. You're good at it. And I'm telling him, "No, man, I have only psytrance sounds, man. I don't know how to make hip-hop beats. I don't have the sounds, you know. I never experimented with that." He said, "Try. What do you care? What do you have to lose?" You know. Said, "Okay, let's try." So I changed the BPMs, I made some other types of beats with the psytrance sounds, and it sounded so different. Back in the days, it was 2008, I didn't know any other alternative psychedelic music beside maybe Spongel and maybe Ott. I didn't know anyone, not the big names of today, definitely. Yeah. So I didn't have any reference with what I am going to do. I just played. And suddenly I discovered a whole new world that I never even imagined, a whole experimental world of music. That was the beginning of me understanding that there is more into music than psytrance. So I began to discover many genres. I realized there are more genres beside hip-hop that I can do with psychedelic sounds, but there are many genres. So I took one genre at a time and began to study it, and to learn the sound designs and the composition and how it works and how can I take a certain type of music, which is a specific genre, but give it the signature of my own production at the same time. Yeah. Then I began to do some experimental stuff. I called this project Indigo Child back at the time. It was just before Symbolico. And actually Symbolico was born when this vision of experimental music got together in my mind at the same time that I had an inner transformation in my life. My mind and my heart began to expand a lot, began to realize deep truth about life. I began to notice things that you cannot really explain in words, but it's a type of connection. I began to read a lot of books about it because I had some mystical experiences that I couldn't understand what is going on. So what I realized, basically, if I need to summarize this inner transformation that got me to arrive to the idea behind Symbolico project, was that everyone are speaking about the same thing, but they are using different terms, different symbols to express the same thing. And there is a very famous sentence by Eckhart Tolle. He's one of my favorite spiritual teacher. He says, "The finger pointing to the moon is not the moon. It's just the pointer." From that point of view, I realized that we are all speaking about the same thing. Whether we will speak about it in words now, whether we will speak about it in theistic words or mathematical scientific words, whether if we will speak about it through a certain type of music, whether if we'll call it psytrance or we'll call it psy-ambient or we will call it reggae dub, we can call it whatever you want to name it. In the end, it's all about an experience that sends you to the present moment, to the realization of what's really real, which is now. That's the meaning for music in the end. The music by itself, it's not important. But the level of attention, the quality of attention that it gives you as a listener of the music, this is what important, because the more attentive we are to life, the more alive we are, the more connected to our roots we are. So I realized that true language, true teaching is not about excluding, rather it's about including. This is the main idea behind Symbolico. Instead of doing something very specific, I wanted to include everything. Until today, my job here in the studio is to include as much words as possible and combine them into one word, showing that we are all speaking about the same thing. We are all going to the same direction together, rather if we would use different terms, words, genres, whatever. So I began to fusion between words and also took very important messages of the teachers that I sense that are teaching a true teaching, which is based on including and not excluding, and wanted to give a musical expressions to those teachings. This is where I understood that I have something very, very deep in my hands. I have an idea for a project that I knew ahead that from now on, people are going to invite me to perform, and it's going to transform my life and other people's life. I knew it. I didn't have any doubts. It wasn't like a 50-50, I don't know, let's try it. No, it came from a deeper place within me that I just knew that this is my divine path, my divine purpose in life for now. And no surprise, it's exactly what happened and still happening. So this is the basic idea behind the project, how I got to the vision behind the project Symbolico. And it's also supposed to be a combination between ambient vibes and groovy rhythms. Because many times you will go to a festival and you will get those groovy rhythms, whether if it's psytrance or any other type of groovy rhythms that just communicate well with your body and your body likes to move. But usually they don't go anywhere. There is no journey. There is no softness into this music. And sometimes you go to a different stage and there everything is magical and possible and the structures of the music is unknown. Every time it can be different and it's soft and it touches you in very, very sweet places within you. And it's beautiful, but not all the time it moves your body at the same time. So I realized that what I want to do with music, mainly, it's the perfect combination between ambient vibes and groovy rhythms. So I'm focusing on that, besides the fact that I want to include all the genres and present true teaching of the world, which includes everything and shows that we are all talking about the same thing, but in a way that will know how to touch softly, but still move your body very much as possible at the same time to make this perfect combination.
Yes, first time when I listened to Connectica, the debut album, was absolutely fascinated by the kinetic intelligence of the beats and rhythms. And your originality resides in this transformation, a kind of embodiment of this vision. You also organize and present a musical production workshop called Audio Alchemy. What's the concept of this workshop?
Yes, so a few months after I released my debut album Connectica, I received an email from one of my favorite artists that back in the days I wasn't his friend or anything like that, but I loved him very much by his music. And suddenly I'm receiving an email from Headflux, which is one of my favorite inspirations nowadays, and to receive an email by him telling me that they are doing a retreat called Audio Alchemy. It's a very, very small retreat. It's the second time they are doing it, and they are working with understanding the principles behind classic alchemy and how to express it in values of music productions. And they used my album there as a perfect example for that. Wow. And I was in shock because I never learned alchemy or anything like that. I'm experimenting creativity in my own personal point of view. So I was really amazed to know that people that are doing alchemy, alchemists, and also giving values of music production from alchemy, seeing my music as a perfect example for that. And also, he wanted to invite me to Hawaii, where the retreat is happening, to give workshops about audio alchemy, about my approach to music production and how I live my life, etc. Now, I used to give some personal classes of music production to some people. I felt that they have a vision in their music, so I wanted to help them express this vision musically better. But I never gave lectures or workshops in front of a group of people, definitely not in music production. So it was very new to me. I couldn't say no, yeah, of course. All the conditions were there, you just come, and I went, obviously. It was a very big retreat. Surprisingly, the third one was 70 people in the big island of Hawaii. And the amount of synchronicities that happened to me only on the way to Hawaii, not saying that in the first day of the retreat, in the opening ceremony, the volcano in the big island 3 miles from us erupted and half of the island got evacuated, and there was like a poisonous smoke surrounding parts of the island, and we didn't know if we were going to stay in the retreat center or pass to a different place or being evacuated. We didn't know, but we felt so safe because this platform called Audio Alchemy, it's very special, it's very magical. We saw the eruption of the volcano not as a disaster, but the opposite. We didn't see it as a destruction, but rather as a creation. Mother Nature creates itself through eruptions of volcanoes. This is how Earth is being born. So yeah, we experienced some earthquakes also, and with all of that, I needed to create a workshop, even a few workshops, to really express what is going on within me in this journey of creating music and to teach it to other people. So I divided my workshops into 2 sections. One was more philosophical. It's called The Divine Purpose. It's connecting to your inner unique expression within you, which I see that each one of us has its own unique way of how we perceive the world. Knowing that life as we perceive it is just our perception. There is no really objective reality, at least as we know of, because no one ever observes the world outside of his own point of view. So we know today that what we see, hear, sense, smell, and taste are actually translations in our consciousness of what is happening, but not really what is happening. So each one of us perceive it in his own unique way. And when an artist connects to that unique place within him of how he perceives the world and manage to express this inner perception outside, if it's in music or different type of art, this type of action I call a divine purpose, because it's truly inspirational. When I observe a piece of art or I listen to music of someone that is living his divine purpose and really giving an outer expression to his inner uniqueness, I recognize his own essence. You know how is it when you listen to a music and you feel that you know the artist. When you listen to the music, and not surprisingly you meet the artist and he's exactly like the music, because he managed to express his own essence through the medium that he chose to express it. I express it nowadays through music, but it can be in any type of art, any type of way, in every moment, in every aspect of our life, every day, every moment. These are the actions that give me inspiration, and this is what I wanted to connect to in my workshop, The Divine Purpose, and help other people connect to their unique essence within themselves through a guided meditation, which I created specially for that, which is based on a philosophy. Long story short, when we connected through meditation to each one to his own unique place, some visions appeared in everyone's imagination. It could be shapes, it could be colors, structures, textures, it could be scenes, it could be a short story, it could be a character. Whatever, as long as you feel the connection to your own inner uniqueness within you and that symbol that is appearing in your mind, that's enough. That's what I was looking for in that part of the workshop, The Divine Purpose. And then each one shared his vision, and we created an open discussion of how we take those visions that we had in our mind during our connection to our unique expression and translate those visions into music production values. So if, for example, someone told me I saw like a spiraling green arrow that comes from the center to the sides. So we created a discussion, okay, green. We go and see where in the spectrum of the colors green is. And we translated the spectrum of the colors into the spectrum of the human ears, and we decided which frequency we will use in the synthesizer in order to synthesize an ongoing spiral. That's only a small example. This is only a shape. Another person talked about a texture. How do you translate a texture into music production values? So there are very interesting questions that even me, I don't know all the answers. I'm learning myself. This is why I said it's an open discussion, and we create a certain type of language between each other that we can help each other understand our own unique place and giving it values of music production in order to really share our uniqueness within us in the purest way possible through our music. And why do we do it? We do it because it helps you focus. 70 years ago, 60 years ago, we didn't have a lot of equipment to do music, definitely not electronic music, and to record and to mix. We needed to be very, very creative and to make amazing things out of nothing. No options whatsoever. Nowadays, it's the opposite. We have too many options, too many programs, too many sounds, too many plugins, too many synthesizers, analog, digital, you name it, we all have it.
Plenty.
And we need to find a way how to filter out what it's not really needed and really focus on what's really important. What's your vision? If there are musicians listening to this interview right now, I would love to ask you, why do you do music? What's the vision behind your doing? What's the reason? Is any sound, all of your sounds in each track have the answer for the question, why? Why? The whole purpose of the Divine Purpose workshop in Audio Alchemy is to give an answer to that main question, because when it remains unanswered, the music could be very nice, but it won't last for long. It would be interesting, but not super fresh and original, and comes out of your own unique expression.
What's next for Symbolico regarding music releases?
Wonderful question. It's a very, very, very difficult question to answer, because I change plans all the time. I never plan ahead. Even when I come to perform, I just returned from Transylvania Calling, and I gave there 2 sets. Both of them, I didn't even had a clue what am I going to do till the last moment. This is how I like to do things, that in one hand my production have a very specific structure, but the way I like to present it, I like to present it formless, because I really believe that in this formless, the magic can appear from. It has enough space to come out and to be shown. So the same approach I have with writing music is the same approach that I have with performing my music, and it's also the same approach that I have with releasing the music. So now basically I have around 16 tracks unreleased in many styles. I have a new flow which I call it halftime psytrance, which is basically psytrance on 140 or 145 BPM, but instead of going tum chuku tum chuku tum chuku tum, it goes tum chika tuk chik tak chika tuk chik tuk chika tuk chik tak chika tuk, but many psytrance sounds and evolutions and progressions. This is one flow I'm working on, and I have a few beautiful tracks in that style. After Audio Alchemy, I develop another flow for my sets. I call it Tribe and Bass, which is the combination of tribal music and neuro drum and bass, or halftime drum and bass. Because again, I saw that the tribal music represents all of the softness, the ambience, and something that is very open and doesn't have a specific structure. And drum and bass moves your ass. You know? It makes you move. It releases energy. So I said, I never heard the combination of the two. You know, like it always or all of those special drums and sounds from the forest, and everything is like magical and open and creative. So I developed this flow in my set. I call it Tribe and Bass, which are a series of tracks. Some are more chill outs, others are more dancey, which are combinations of drum and bass, but instead of drum riffs like of regular drums, I'm using a lot of authentic percussions that are doing similar riffs, and obviously lots of vocals, tribal vocals and melodies.
Organic.
It's more organic, even though the beats are very precise and fat bass like we like. And it's really tried to give a combination of those worlds. If I can describe it in terms of a picture, so I would consider you to imagine a picture of a tribe, maybe in Africa or Central America. They're all in trance, dancing towards their god, and their god, and we imagine like the forest and everything, and the tribe, everyone together in the trance, and their god is actually a futuristic subwoofer flying in the air, you know. This is more or less my vision. I received this inspiration from after being in Hawaii in audio alchemy, and it got me for a long series of 7-8 tracks in this flow that I put during my sets. So beside of that, I have a few remixes I'm working on a remix to Desert Dweller.
Oh, great. Yeah.
I'm working on a remix to David Starfire, and also working on a remix to Sorian Itai, which you also interviewed lately. So I have a lot of work, and in terms of how it's going to be released, still a lot of questions. I don't know all the answers. I really want to release everything. I really want, but I know that everything has to be in its own time, and the more I grow with my music, I understand that I need to be consistent in the way I like to be consistent. It's not that I need to be, I also like to be, because it's helpful for me to give a very healthy value to my work with music. There is a chance I will surprise you guys with an album out of the blue, and also there is a chance that there will be an EP or two before the album. I didn't decide yet. If anyone that is listening to this interview wants to give me an advice about that, I would love to hear. I'm open for that, of course. And also, I like to tease you guys. It's part of my game.
At the end of our interview, there is anything else you would like to add for our listeners?
Actually, yes, I do. I have a very, very strong message, and the message comes also to me. I also need this message, so it's not me giving advice to anyone, the opposite. It's just a reminder for everyone, including me, that there is a kid within us. His life is a dream. Everything is possible. The kid is open to decide how he wants to perceive his reality. He's flexible. So every time we feel the openness and the flexibility to decide how we want to live our life, this is our kid within us. And if I could say anything, that I would say this is really important, live for that kid. Listen to this kid, because this kid believes in magic. This kid is magic. It is the door within us to a magical place. And maybe don't get attached to the word magic. It doesn't have to be this word, but the meaning, it's what counts. So if you can, listen to this kid and know that everything is possible, and there is absolutely no point of anything in life beside realizing the kid's dreams. So if you listen to your kid within you, it will lead you to your dreams. And there is no point of living life without realizing our dreams. Realize your dreams, because if your life doesn't go to the direction that you want it to go, there is no one to blame. No one is doing anything to anyone. It's only us, each one with his own perception. So be flexible and love this kid within you, let him be expressed by realizing our dreams exactly the way we want it, not similarly, without compromising, exactly. And I promise you, and I promise to myself, that nothing can stop this process, because there is no other point for life beside realizing ourselves. This is my message. Thank you.